this afternoon, I'll be discussing more about security. Okay? That actually coincides with psychology, which is what we call the user behavior, right? So when you say priming, it's more of malicious actor is leveraging the emotions that we have, right? They play for our feelings, and then they are able to make some actions that they need to do. Like, for example, if you are presented with QR codes, it's easier for us to do transactions using QR codes, right? What if they presenting you some lookalike domains? Like, for example, it's coming from a credible source, right? So the first thing that we have in our mind is that, oh, this is a credible source, so I'll be able to trust this one, right? That's the priming that they use when it comes to cyber attacks, okay? So let me give you some examples of this one. Who wants freebies? Of course, everybody wants freebies. Filipinos would like to have that. But when it comes to freebies, what if you are a coffee lover and you are presented with this kind of QR code, right? And they say that if you scan this code, you'll have a free coffee. Then probably if you are not worried about this one, you will fall into these types of attacks, right? Another thing, let's say for example, for coming from a credible brand. Let's say for example, coming from getting some SMS from a credible source, and it says that your account actually is suspended. And for you to restore that, you need to do these things, right? You need to click this link, you need to provide information, so on and so forth. And even on the bank transfers. And lastly, of course, the two things that I shared with you, the credible sources, it actually make use of lookalike domains. So if you're not familiar with lookalike domains, it looks like the same, but when it comes to alphabet usage, it's actually different. So if you're using a mobile device to actually see this particular domain, then you're able to be lured that is a credible source or legitimate source. Clear? Now let's move forward. So we saw that human error is still the weakest link in our environment. And as you can see on this report, in 2025 of Verizon data breach report, it says that 60% of breach actually involve human element. That's why it makes the previous examples that I showed earlier true, right? And you can see some of the breaches actually is involving vulnerabilities on softwares and even espionage motivated. Now, another thing is unmanaged devices. In our environment, we know that there are unmanaged devices. And the increased number of unmanaged devices, it is actually is not good when it comes to our environment. Why? Because based on the report as well, 48% of stolen credentials, corporate stolen credentials, are coming and is extracted from the unmanaged devices. So we need to know how to manage all of those devices. Another thing is social engineering. This is the main source or the known source when it comes to priming. So if they use phishing, lookalike domains, links, then you are able to fall into these types of attacks. Next, we also use Gen AI. Who among you here use artificial intelligence? Okay, of course, we are all using artificial intelligence. But the thing is, it's good to use artificial intelligence for innovation, for productivity. But when it comes to having the secured Gen AI being used by the corporate, you need to be able to have the right guidelines. You need to be able to identify what is the need from the user side, that how can I actually use Gen AI. Now, because of those problems that we have, the Industrial Cybersecurity Insider said that the projected annual cost of a cybercrime by the year of 2028 is around $14 trillion. That's a huge amount, right? For us to be able to provide that amount to just a single breach. And as you can see, organizations now keep up when it comes to providing protection to their organization. So what they do, they modernize the things that they are using in their environment. So you can see here, there are new routers, switches, they use text generation firewall, they also use applications and EVER SASE, or even if you're using zero trust in your environment. But you know what, there's this layer in our environment that we currently not doing well when it comes to modernizing. We use it. We actually use it when it comes to going online on internet. So if we use this one, if this one is actually broken, then we cannot go to the internet or even go online. So this layer is actually DNS. And I'll be discussing more about how can DNS can be used not only for networking, just translating domains to IP, but even using DNS as a security tool. Okay, so when it comes to cyber threats, I think you're familiar with the top 15 cyber threats I'm showing here. Malware, ransomware, web threats, spam, so on and so forth. And did you know that most of these threats actually is, the common denominator is DNS. So, according to NSA, 92% of cyber attacks actually utilize DNS as a protocol. So if you are able to use DNS as a platform for security, then you're able to provide protection for this kind or percentage amount. Okay? So, before I proceed with my presentation, let me just introduce myself first. I'm Jessica Bernardo. You can call me Eka for short. I'm one of the solutions architect in Infoblox. And this is something that I would like you to have a key takeaway for this presentation. If you think about DNS, you think of it as a defense mechanism. Okay? Use it as a security tool, not only for networking. So DNS is actually abused. Kanina, I also shared with you that DNS is being used for things that we can go online, but it is actually being abused right now when it comes to cyber attacks. You can see here malware, common ground of malware. They connect to command and control. And for that command and control, they have different domains that they connect to. So if your security admins block one domain, then they are able to go through another domains. That's what they call domain generation algorithm. They also use DNS tunneling and even data exfiltration or extraction on the data using DNS as an exploit. Another thing is they use phishing lookalikes, the same thing that I showed with you earlier. And of course, AI. So if you are using AI for productivity, the malicious actor use it also for their threats. So they can make use of AI as a tool wherein they can do domain generation algorithms as well, and even creating their own malware. Now, let me show you what is the location of DNS in our environment. So if you click a link on your environment, it doesn't go to the internet magically. Okay, what actually happens? If you have a user and device, it interacts with a DNS server. So from that DNS server, it see what is the IP address of that particular domain that it actually contacts to. When the DNS server already know that, then it goes through all the security tools that you have, and then it goes to the internet. So that's the simple thing that the DNS do. But what if that particular domain that the user is actually accessing is a command and control or a data exfiltration? It will be hard for us to provide protection for that. So that's why we need to think DNS as a security tool, because it is a asset that is closest to the network, and it actually has a unique position to block most of the threats that we have. Again, everybody, every user, every device connects to the DNS. So if we are able to provide protection on the DNS layer, then we are able to provide protection to the entire environment. So let me talk about the infrastructure-based versus the malware-based threat detection. This is actually what happened when it comes to threats. Most of the malicious actors create their own or develop their own malware. They use AI for that. Then they do staging. They do staging so that they can deliver the attack to the target customer. So once they already have the staging, what they do? They register a domain, they create an infrastructure, and then they configure a DNS server for that. And then once they deliver it successfully, the malware, then you're able to see here the production part. This is where all of our security tools are in place. So this is the place wherein the detection and blocking can actually be done if the threat is already in the customer environment. But what if we can actually do more proactive way of providing protection? What if we can block on the upper layer? Meaning, at the time that the domain has been registered, we already identify that that domain is actually malicious. And then the DNS server will be able to identify that, and the DNS server will be able to block that. What if we can do that? So we can actually do that in our environment. And this technology is what we call protective DNS. So protective DNS, just to share what it looks like, it is a DNS server that coupled with DNS threat intelligence, that actually coupled with artificial intelligence and even machine learning. And you can create policy on that. So that is protective DNS. Just to show you how it looked like, any user, any device that contacts the protective DNS, if the protective DNS identify that that is malicious, then it can block it. What I'm saying here is that it just queries a DNS or domain, meaning the user or the device doesn't contact the website. It just queries if that is malicious or not. So if we have identified at that layer that that is malicious or not, then we can actually provide protection to the entire devices and users. Okay? Again, it's on the blocking on the first DNS query. So example for ransomware, we know what happened. The user clicks the link, it connects to command and control, it executes a malware, it exfiltrates data, and then they're able to encrypt all of the systems. Now, what if we embedded DNS security on this one? Then we are able to provide blocking on domain resolution, we are able to provide blocking on command and control, or we are able to provide blocking on data exfiltration. Now, threat intelligence, I'm sharing with you threat intel earlier. So what we do when it comes to identifying threat intel on DNS, the first time that the domain has been registered, we identify if that is malicious or not. Most of the time, we identify that that is malicious. After how many days, some of the security advisors tell, oh, that is malicious. So that is actually after how many days? So at the window of the time that is registered and the time that is identified as a security breach, it is a window of vulnerability, right? So if you're not able to provide protection on that particular time, then you will be able to fall on the breach. Another thing is we can actually do more earlier stage of identifying these domains. So you can see here you have the zero-day DNS, wherein on the first 24 hours, we identify that that particular domain might be malicious or not. And if we have identified that that is malicious, then we can actually do blocking of those particular threats on the first 24 hours. Another story, some success stories when it comes to DNS intelligence done right. You can see here 24 days before the breach actually happened, 4 months, 1 month, so on and so forth. And if you're talking about numbers, if you're asking if there is a false positive for this one, we have a false positive rate of 0.002%. It is scalable. It actually have a head start, which is around 63 days. Meaning at an average, we identify that the domain is malicious even before it actually hits the customer organization. So what we do when it comes to solving drug problem? Most of the time, we go to the drug dealers, right? Or in our context, we are identifying each domain. If that domain is malicious, then I'll block it, right? But when it comes to providing solutions on drug problem, you need to go after the cartel. Meaning, you need to go after the threat actor that is leveraging that particular domain. So, yan siya. So, what we do? So, we identify these threat actors, and from these threat actors, we identify if that domain is related to that threat actors, then we provide protection for the customer. So we have different types of threat actors. Lastly, so there's also a need for research. So we had you can actually have a platform wherein you can manage to see those of researchers when it comes to DNS. So that's the last. So we have key takeaways for this one. So some key takeaways. Priming is always the entry point. How you feel will actually translate and influence how you do things. Click it, right? Scan it, right? So human behavior is still a major cybersecurity risk. Number 2, primed actions often resolved via DNS. So as you can see, DNS is critical. You need to make use of it as a security tool. Another thing, blocks prime threats before the execution of the attack. You can make use of protective DNS for that. Lastly, you need to reveal patterns in prime behavior, using DNS intelligence to enhance your security ecosystem. So we still have some other things, just that the tip of the iceberg of what DNS, but you can use DNS as a security tool, but there are some other use cases. You can take a photo of this one. Okay, so if you have questions, we are still on top. But thank you again for listening and have a nice day.